Welcome to the Onstage Podcast, where we deep dive into the power of music and entertainment.
Extraordinary doesn't always mean what's best. You know I'm not the type who needs to be impressed. 'Cause I love you just for you, not for anything you do. Not the waves that you're making, or the records that you're breaking. No, for you. To me it's still enough. Danny, I promise, it's enough. I wanna watch the world burn. I got the gasoline. I wanna watch the world burn and everyone get mean. I wanna watch the world burn. I got the gasoline. I wanna watch your world burn and everyone get mean. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Yeah. Oh, I put a spell on you because you're mine. Because you're mine. Because you're mine.
It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Well, welcome back to the Onstage Podcast, a show that dives deep into the lives and careers of the people who entertain us. I'm Chris Robert, and today we're joined by a very special guest. I would not believe it. The talented actress Jessica Ruth Bell, and you might know her from Darman, and she's awesome. And also, to those who've seen that Christmas movie, I'll be back. I'll be there.
I'll
What-
be home for Christmas.
I'll be home for Christmas. Yeah. And that's actually with Erica Duke. She's also a really great actress as well. And you're
I
also
love
the
Erica.
impactful series by Darman. Jessica Ruth Bell, also known as Jessica Bell or Jess Bell, I guess you want to, has been acting and singing for over a decade. In 2020, she marked the year of her first lead role in her first full-length feature film, As Real as You Make It, which was released about a year and a half ago. Shortly after that, she started taking online improv classes at UCB, booking the 8th annual Oscar special by Tim Heidecker. This led to multiple different projects, including the television pilot Rock House and the 12th season of the On Cinema series as the up-and-coming pop star Wendy Kirby. And to note, this is a Valentine's Day special, exactly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she has quickly developed a lucrative career in repeat work. Her character, Wendy Kirby, on the cult following On Cinema comedy show was well received by fans and production alike, leading to her continued presence on the show. You also appeared as Amy in Three Funny Dudes, and as we aforementioned, as Courtney and I'll Be Home for Christmas. LOL Surprise the Movie 2023. We actually lent your voice to the character Starlet.
Mm-hmm.
And after coming home from a 6-month contract performing singing I want to talk about, at the Hong Kong Disneyland as Rapunzel and Elsa in 2019, she made her way to the Shakespeare Center of LA. She also played the third witch, Lady Macduff, gentlewoman, fleance, and musician in the 2019 production of The Tragedy of Macbeth. Crypto Dingo, she played the helpful girl Sarah in Pizza Delivery Girl. Okay, can you deliver us the pizza first before we move on?
Definitely.
And the Starlight School of Magic, she portrayed Tina, Sabrina, and Miss Hound. And of course, it's pre-productions. Watch Us Kill Delilah Morgan, which is this year. Soldiers, a soprano story, and we'll mention that a little later. So, also, you were appeared as Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, the musical, and Cinderella in Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and Sandy in Grease. Wow. So, Jessica, um, on a personal note, like you love to act and you love to sing, but just everyone knows that on a personal level, Jessica loves baking, crocheting, crafting, sewing, and meditating. And if you're lucky enough to find her on a bench in a nice green patch of grass, journaling about positive things and projects she has planned for the near future. Is there anything you can't do?
I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Well, let's start from the beginning. So, what drew you to acting and inspired you to get your start in this competitive industry? Can you share a little bit about your journey into acting?
Sure. Well, since I was a really young kid, I just always loved it. I remember one of the most formative things was that in the second grade, they ask you, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And my answer was, "I want to be a fairy." And my teacher said, "Well, you can't do that, Jessica." And I said, "I guess I'll act because then I can be a fairy." So it's just always been there. And then I always did musicals all the way up until like 2019. And when I was a kid, High School Musical was a really big deal. And I remember watching that movie and just thinking, oh, that looks so fun. I want to do that. And then, I mean, from there on out, it was just, I knew what I was doing and I knew what I wanted to do. And I had very supportive parents. So they're totally fine with me pursuing that. My mom was an actress back in the day. And so she helped me as much as she could, and my dad was also in the industry. He was a prop maker, so and then she turned into a set painter, so just a lot of different things in the industry. And so I just grew up sort of in and around it. I was by no means a child actor. My parents, and thank goodness for my parents, they didn't push me to do anything I wasn't comfortable doing, and I was very shy when I was a kid. So no child acting here. It really just started when I was in high school. I started actually doing it professionally, and then after high school, it really took off for me, and I was doing a lot of work. So yeah.
Do you have a good relationship with your parents?
Oh yeah, yeah, fabulous relationship with my parents. My mom is like one of my best friends. I love her. I love my dad. I love my brother. We have a very close family. We see each other all the time. When I got the opportunity to move out of my family home, I moved 3 houses down
Mm.
because I adore them and I always want to spend time with them. Of course, I need my own space, but
Hmm.
yeah, we have a lot of fun together, and they're all very jokey and funny people, and yeah, we're just fun to hang around.
I bet. So you played a lot of characters that some I've actually mentioned, and there's a possibility of like I could give the audience a whole list. And if I do, we don't need you here anymore. So, but do you have a personal favorite? And if so, why?
Oh, I do have a personal favorite. I played the character Annette Moffat in As Real as You Make It. And as you said, that was my first feature film in 2020. It was at the end of 2020 that we filmed it. I think it was in around November when we filmed it. And with all the COVID protocols and everything, and I was a lead in that, and it was my first big lead. I felt beautiful because they put me in all of these beautiful costumes and did my hair and my makeup, and that character came to me so specifically and so out of the ordinary because prior to the audition, and the audition happened earlier in the year, it took a while for this to start filming. Usually it's a pretty quick, you get cast and then you go do it, but this one, it took a couple months for it to get solidified. And all that month prior to the audition, when I didn't even know that I had an audition, I had been on a Marilyn Monroe kick. I was watching every Marilyn Monroe movie that I could
Wow.
possibly find. I was watching them with my mom. My dad didn't like them so much, so we kept him out of it. But I just was so obsessed with Marilyn Monroe. And then this audition comes across, and immediately I read the sides and I'm like, this is Marilyn. This is Marilyn Monroe. I can do this. I've been watching her for ages, it feels like. And so I just knew the character right from the get-go. And then I was cast pretty quickly after that. I remember the director was like, you just walked off the page. You were just exactly what we thought of as Annette. And it was just a really special process for me because the filming was wonderful. We were all we were having a lot of fun on set. It was great material. I thought it was great writing. Shout out to Chadwick and oh no, shout out to everyone. Yeah. So yeah, that was my favorite role. And I know that was like 4 years ago, but I'm just chasing more roles like that where I really feel like I know this person.
Yeah, you become every character you approach. I'd like to ask you, but since you had a diverse career from theater to television and online series, so for instance, As Real as You Make It, which you played Annette Moffat,
Mhm.
uh, can you tell us how do you approach these different mediums as an actress?
Sure. Well, it's pretty simple because TV and film and web series, online series are basically the same. But what I will say is that where you're a little bit more real in TV film, for web series, if it's a very specific genre. Like Darman is a very specific genre. I just worked with Topper Guild on his YouTube series. That's very specific. You know the world, you know it's usually for kids. And so everything has to be a bit bigger. In some cases, a lot bigger. So in TV and film, it's more subtle. But on the web series and YouTube series, you're allowed and encouraged to go bigger than you normally would. Sometimes it was hard for me to make that switch initially because I want to be an actress, like I want to be in movies and I want to be on TV shows and I want to be really good and eventually I really want to get an Oscar and an Emmy and da 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 da.
Hmm.
Web series don't really have a lot of room for that. And so how I like to separate them in my brain is like there's acting and then there's performing.
Hmm.
For me, TV and film is acting, and then for me, web series and YouTube series, that's performing.
Hmm.
It's less about being a real person, and it's more about like I'm an entertainer today.
Does it give you some sort of like a not a high, but an excitement, just jumping up and down, especially playing Annette Moffat, like the experience that you have, just like, is that the most challenging role? What would be the most challenging role if it wasn't that one?
Challenging. That's a good question. I remember before that, and there's probably some now, but it's funny. I've done a lot of work and a lot of study and classes and courses since 2020. So I think everything at the beginning was more challenging in general. But I remember I did this incredible short by Greg Armstrong. He was the director, and it was for UCLA. And it was called The Art of Survival.
Mm.
And I played Alice, who was this young girl who sort of down on her luck, sort of scrappy, stealing things from the place that she works to eat, stuff like that. And she gets into a relationship with a person who she doesn't realize at first is very intense, possessive, and borderline abusive / abusive. And that role, I did so much preparation for that role, and it turned out incredible. Like watching it back, I'm like, oh, I see her. Like she's a real person. But I remember it was very challenging in the moment. I had like a fake pregnancy belly that was like full weight. So it was like I was pregnant basically. And
Wow.
that was a crazy feeling at all. That's a crazy feeling, but to then add on to that, you're acting with like really incredible, like Joe Coffey was the guy that I acted across, and he was really good. That was like such a great role for him. And now he's like doing a bunch of stuff. He's killing it. But that's the one that sticks out to me as like that one was challenging, but in a really satisfying way.
How do you deal with your mental health when you have all these different auditions you have to do, different theater productions, different movies? So is that what you do? Is crocheting, taking walks, journaling, as we mentioned before? Is that what you do to keep yourself sane?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of I take time for myself. I try to take time for myself. You know, it's an ongoing challenge because it everything ramps up with time. Everything ramps up. I'm getting more auditions than I've ever gotten. I'm working more than I've ever worked, and so you have to be very specific and intentional about the time that you spend. So I have to start out the day meditating. I just have to, and the day goes much better if I've started meditating. And also it's a compartmentalization because on any given day, I could have anywhere from one audition to 12 auditions. It's happened. And when I say auditions, I really mean self-tapes. We don't have very many in-person auditions anymore. I prefer self-tapes personally. I don't live very, very near LA, and a lot of them are in LA if they're in person. But it's that compartmentalization of this doesn't have to be perfect. I can show them a taste of what it would be like to work with me as this character, but I don't have to spend an hour on every single one. I don't have to go like above and beyond for every single one. And some people will fight me on that, but to that I say I don't have to work with those people, and that's okay. I think a lot of casting directors understand that like we are full human beings with full human being lives.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of things to do in a day, and adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a million self tapes on top of that is work. Like it's a full time job without getting paid. And that's what really it is. It's like with all the self tapes, it's a full time job with no pay. Just hoping to get a paying gig.
That's true. I was watching your how to self tape video on your YouTube channel, which was which was fascinating. It's going to help a lot of people. I know 984 people watched it, so that's good. So I really love your YouTube channel, and also singing
Hmm.
put a spell on you. And I want to talk about your singing. Do you know what vocal range you are? Are you more like a soprano or?
I'm a soprano for
Okay,
sure.
that's awesome.
Thank
Have you
you.
have you done opera?
I've tried a little bit of opera here and there. It's definitely not my specialization, but I've worked on it with my vocal coach, Jessica Taylor. She's incredible. If anybody needs vocal lessons, Jessica Taylor is the one to go to. She's incredible. JT Vocal Studios. But there have been a couple auditions in the past when I was more focused on musical theater, not so much anymore. But like, I had an audition for Les Mis, and I had to really study. Like, okay, well, was it Les Mis or was it could it was one of those operatic musicals where it definitely like I consider myself more of a pop contemporary, almost like pop rock or alternative sort of singer. Those are the things that I really like to do. I enjoy opera, but I have to take it in small bursts because I don't speak Latin, and a lot of times it's in Latin. So I'm a very emotional person, and I like to connect with what I'm singing. I cry in almost every single vocal lesson that I go to. I just have a lot of emotions.
Wow.
So that's important for me to be able to connect.
So is maybe singing is what you want to do on a full-time basis, or is it something you just want to have on the side?
I'd say more of on the side. Because acting is truly like, that's where I feel the most, I wouldn't even say comfortable, but just more at home in acting. I love singing. It's something that will never leave. Like I take a vocal class every single week. Like and I've done that for 10 plus years. Like it's not leaving anytime soon. And I do recitals. Like I have a recital next week, and I do shows, but it's
Mm.
definitely not my number one. It's not the main focus. It's really just something that I enjoy deeply, and I love working on that craft because it's so, you can see your progress so clearly. when you've been taking lessons for so long, you can see where you started, you can see where you are, you can see where you have to grow. The funny thing with acting is that you can't really see when you've grown. It's sort of all cerebral. You don't have a gauge for stuff like that.
Well, I think you're a great actress. I was
Thank
watching the
you.
one that you did on dramatic improv monologue, and you were playing Melanie. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, stay away from that girl if you bump into her. Like, that was good. Do you remember
Thank
that
you.
dramatic role you did with Melanie? That was good. That was a good one.
Thank you so much.
I was reading about all the characters and actors of Darman. I noticed a lot of them are pretty musical inclined because we had several on our show. We've had Caden, we've had Colin, I had Giovanna, and just on Monday I had Vanessa Nottingham, who told
Oh,
me,
I love Vanessa.
yeah, and she sings as well. So maybe you guys should do a duet.
I would love that.
But you have been part of the Darman series, known for its motivation and life lesson driven content. I love it. So you play multiple characters. One is a poor girl shamed for her old car. Nerd cheats to win school valedictorian.
That was my
Teacher
favorite.
kicks out emo student. Girl shamed for dark under eyes. Student destroys girl's dress, which was a good one. What was it like
Thank
doing those
you.
episodes?
Say that again.
What was it like doing those episodes, especially the character Sloane?
Well, Sloan was my very, very first Starman video. And that was, I remember having a lot of fun on that. I loved working with Avery and I loved working with Jaslyn. We had a great time.
Hmm.
And I had these crazy clip-in extensions that I wore for that. And my hair just looks so big. And I can't watch it back anymore without just staring at my hair. Because I had this short, cute little bob at the time. And oh wow, that was so long ago. It feels like so long ago. My hair has now grown. It's long now, like I wanted it to be. And what was the question? How was that like? It was just great. It was a great experience. I really liked it, and I love playing a covert. Like you don't, she's your friend. You think she's your friend, and then she's not your friend. I love stuff like that. I love being the secret villain.
What about Sarah Noel? I think you had an episode with her at one point, I think.
I don't think necessarily an episode, but it was one of those like special Darman things. I think
Oh, the
for,
bonus,
did
yep.
they have an app or something at some point?
They do. They have an app, Darman app, and then they have like Darman bonus, and then he puts the best things together and he calls it, and then you can watch like 2 hours of it, and it's really good series.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I never got to watch them, but yeah, so I met Sarah. I didn't get to do too much with her. I wish I would have been able to be on like a narrative episode with her. That would have been fun.
So when you're handling scripts, what's your process for getting into character and memorizing your lines, especially a mean character? And then there's something called method acting where you would be afraid that you would take your character home with you.
I am in the habit of never taking my character home with me. Work-life balance is extremely important to me because some characters are super fun, super lighthearted, and then some characters are just downright evil,
Hmm.
and you don't want to live with them for very long. They're still very satisfying to play, but I have to be very careful so that I don't become that person when I'm not supposed to become that person. But for preparing for a role and stuff like that, when I get the sides initially, it sort of starts when I get the audition or the self tape, and I'll see the sides, and pretty quickly I get a feel for like who I envision this character being in the scheme of the whole story. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I hear that she's a nerd. Let me just play a nerd. But there's so much of a difference between just a vague nerd and the person who fits in this story. Because we don't know what role that person has in the entire story. And if you can boil that down to whatever you feel is I'm not making any sense, but it's a lot of making sure that you're playing the role in the whole instead of playing the role on the page. To me. Um, and I feel like a lot of people, I've seen a lot of auditions and know that when they don't book it, I can usually see it and be like, I don't think you were playing that for the whole movie. I think you were playing that for this like five lines. And then memorization, I just really make sure that I know the character before I start actually memorizing, because that's going to inform what she's saying, what they're saying. And if a line isn't really sticking with me, if I don't remember the line, it's probably because I don't know why the character would say it. So then I have to go back and be like, well, why would a person like this say this line? And a lot of times it's pretty easy. Sometimes it's pretty hard. I've noticed with good writing, it's so easy to memorize. With subpar writing, it's harder. And then I'm a big paraphraser. Some people don't like that, and some people are like, yeah, paraphrase all you want, make it real. So it just depends on like who you feel comfortable working with, you know? So that's always been a big thing of mine too. I'm not for everybody. Just like not a single actor is for everybody. It's just not how this is. And as human beings, we're not for everybody. So me, as a paraphraser, like I have done Shakespeare, like I can be word perfect. I don't like to be word perfect. I like freedom. I like to be a human being and just let the human being be. So the people who want word perfect, I don't necessarily need to work with them. And the people who love paraphrasers, love people who are emotionally on the mark, I love to work with those people.
If a portal opened up and a version of you walked through it, and it was one of the characters you played in Darman or any movies or whatever, which character would it be that you would totally run away from? You don't even want to know because you won't get along with them.
I can't remember the exact name of the Darman episode, but I was in it with Chaz Laughlin. I played an evil lawyer.
Oh yeah, and remember that one. Love
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, I loved that one.
I
I loved
love that
working
one.
with
You were
Chaz. He was
evil.
great to work with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I was evil. If that character came at me, I would run in the opposite direction. I want nothing to do with a person like that.
I love that character. Yeah, you played that evil lawyer, and I believe Shantae was in that one. Charles was in
Yeah.
that one. And I'll link all your episodes down below of Darman, especially that one. That was a good one. I watched that 6 times already because I love the ending. The ending was beautiful, where the brother finally got his gaming place, with like his, what do you call it, arcade.
Yeah, arcade.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
That was one of the best you played in. Yeah, it was awesome.
thank you. That was one of my favorites.
Can you share an experience where you had to portray a character that was drastically different from your own personality?
That sort of takes us back to what we were just talking about, because I'm not a corporate person. I have never really held a corporate job. I sort of had a desk job for a very quick amount of time, but not for very long at all. So I would say that evil lawyer character is the drastically different. She's conniving and she's manipulative and evil, and I say what I feel outright, me as Jessica. I don't manipulate people to get what I want, because usually I can get what I want from myself. So like I'm good. I don't I'm a big communicator. I communicate when I'm upset or uncomfortable or hurt.
Nice.
And someone like that would not. She would not communicate when she's upset or hurt. She would manipulate, or she would be passive aggressive, and I don't I don't do that. I don't believe in it. I can't do it.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to push people away with your attitude or the drama. You want to bring people to, I like that girl, Jessica. Let's be your
Yeah, that would be nice.
friend. So I heard that in addition to acting, you created an online course for aspiring actors.
I did.
Now, what motivated you to teach, and what can students expect to learn from this course?
I initially made it because like I was getting so many questions from kids, from people my age online after the Darman stuff sort of blew up, right? In a good way. um, my following count went up a bit, and people were asking me like, how do you get into acting? How do you do it? And so there were so many people asking me that I had to make something for that. But other than that too, I mean, people close to me, people who have been acting for like 5+ years, saw that I was acting a lot and getting jobs and getting work, and they're like, I don't understand, like, what are you doing? How are you doing that? And I'm not doing that. And I know a lot of info. Like, I've taken a lot of courses on not just how to act. I've done those, but what's even more important to me is the business of acting, because it's a business. And like with any business, you can cook the most incredible food anyone has ever tasted in their life. And if you're bad at business, your restaurant's going to tank.
Mm-hmm.
So acting is the same way. And so I know the business of acting. I'm always trying to learn more about the business of acting. So yeah, and the expectations are, if you enroll in the class, you're going to have all the tools that I have as a working actor to then be a working actor, like consistently and almost, not always, but almost on a full-time basis.
You ever seen a bad performance in a play or movie and you're thinking, I could help them get better? You ever tempted to do that?
No, actually, because I don't teach acting.
No, but
I teach only business, because I don't feel like I have. I mean, I think maybe down the line I could teach acting, but it's never really been as interesting to me as the business side of it. Like, I didn't go to college, but if I were to have gone to college, I would have gone to school for business. I wouldn't have gone to school for acting. I wouldn't have gone to school for theater, but business, I love business.
okay, so emotion now. Like improvisation can be a significant part of acting. How comfortable are you with improv? And you also did improv and comedy as well. Can you share an experience where it plays a key role in your performance? Like, for instance, crying. How would you do that? How would you make yourself cry?
To me, I mean, I've heard some little tips and tricks recently on how to like make yourself cry, but I only learned them recently, and I've been crying on screen for like over 10 years now. So, um, what I do, which I've noticed in classes, some people can do it and some people can't, so it's really just like up to the person. But for me, when I'm a character and I'm feeling the character's emotions, if that character wants to cry, I'm crying.
Hmm.
So if we're in a scene where like she's being broken up with, I'm going to be crying because that's devastating. I am a person who says that I have leaky ducts because I cry a lot.
Hmm.
As a person, as just me, like I cry a lot. And it doesn't always have to be sad tears. Like I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, I cry when I'm mad. It just happens. But because of that, it's, I think, easy for me. I know everyone's different, so that's a hard thing to be like, do this and you'll cry. But I've heard a tip where if you go to yawn and then stop yourself like before the yawn is done and like swallow, your eyes will tear up. I've
Hmm.
heard that. I don't know if it works, but I've heard that it works. So I don't know, but that's how I cry. Is that I'm in the emotional space of that character, and then it just happens.
Yeah, the same as if you have to do like be an angry person, or you have to do a fit, or you have to be sensitive and say it's going to be okay. Crying puts the same amount of emotion as well, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm just always amazed at how some of these, like for instance, Audrey Hepburn and maybe others in the olden days, and all the other new actresses, and like you have to cry, and how you actually learn how to do that is kind of interesting. Because in the old days, they used to put glycerin tears.
Oh, they still do that.
Oh, they still do that?
They still do that. I have stories.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So so now as an actress, because you're doing all this, how do you handle the pressure and expectations that come with being in the public eye? Like people would recognize you and say, "Oh, are you that mean girl?"
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because personally, like people don't recognize me. People don't stop me on the street, and I'm actually very thankful for that
Hmm.
because I'm a very I wouldn't say I'm a very private person, but I am pretty private. And
Mm.
honestly, my social meter, if you will, it starts pretty low. So it's like I talk to just like a few people in the day and it's down to zero pretty quick. So that's not to say that I don't love people because I love people and I'm very much like a give people the benefit of the doubt and I believe that everybody's got love in them and everything. But I definitely guard myself and guard who I talk to in the day. But pressure wise, I guess social media in general, I have to be careful of
Hmm.
because, you know, you can see all of these girls who are like over sexualized and they're getting a lot of likes and a lot of followers. And I'm not really that person. And so it makes you ask yourself, like, should I be that person? Should I show that much skin? Should I do that? And I have nothing wrong with my body, but I also don't really want to put it on display all the time. And so it's sort of finding that balance between like how do I want to be received?
How do you feel that a lot of the actors out there and actors, I would say, people say actress, others say actors for a woman. You don't know, so I'm going to say someone who's an actress. You know,
Sure.
um, do you think they still a lot of them would sleep with a director or producer just to get a big part, or do you think because we're in this day and age that that's a no-no? Like for you, that would be a definite no-no. But you know, people that would do that just to get that big part.
I don't think I know anybody personally who would do that, but I know of people who would do that. I think it definitely still exists. I don't know if it's gotten any less. It might have just gotten more into the public eye. Um, but that is a good question. I don't know anybody personally who would do something like that. I don't think I would, but I don't know. For you know that subject of like what you do with your own body is
Mm.
so specific to the person, and the traditionality of who you give your body to has certainly changed over the years drastically. And I think everybody should do with their body what they feel comfortable and drawn to do instead of forced to do.
I really like that answer. That's a very good, appropriate answer. I love that. What's the best piece of advice you've received in your career, Jessica?
Get my self tapes in early because that'll get you the role. And now I tell everybody who's like, do you have any tips for me? Get your self tapes in early. If they give you 5 days to get it in on the first day. You'll probably book it because more often than not, when this has happened to me before in the past, literally, I had a self tape that I got on Wednesday. It was due on end of Friday, and I sent it in on Wednesday, and I was booked on Thursday
Mm,
morning.
nice.
So that means that anybody who got that self tape request that sent it in on Thursday or Friday wasn't even seen. So
Wow, that's
you got to
terrible.
get
I
it in.
mean,
You got to get it in
yeah.
fast, and that's the biggest tip that I received. And now, like, give freely. Like, get them in fast.
Are you familiar with the big fire that happened in the film vault in 1937? There were many silent film stars and actors and actresses that their entire career just went up in smoke. Like they're silent
No.
film stars that did all these silent films and they were all burnt. So they had nothing to show that they're an actor. That was a really tragic thing. So when you do self tapes, it's good to make sure you have everything. And also having a, what do you call it, an actor's access resume, which has who you are, picture of you, what you've done, so that all you do is say, "Here you go. This is what I've done." Back then, it was like, "Well, I hope that that film survived." You know,
Yeah.
it's totally different now. People can save their stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you this question. I'd like to hear your answer. What's a role that you haven't played yet but would love to?
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't got the opportunity yet to play like a spy.
Mm.
Um, a spy. I've always loved. I love spies. I've just always been like fascinated by them.
Hmm.
I would love to play a spy. Or adjacent, not the same, but definitely adjacent, like
Hmm.
someone who does bank heists. I feel like they're similar in some way.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing, but they have similar feelings to me. Like it's always sneaking around. Let me use these gadgets. I just love that. Very
Wow.
active. I would love to play a spy. Love that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you'd make a good spy. You
Thank
definitely make a
you.
good. Wow. Can you give me what's a misconception people often have about actors that you'd like to correct?
Um, that we are all starving artists who will
Oh
do
yeah.
anything for a role. Because the biggest thing, it's the biggest disrespect when when someone, a casting director or a producer or whatever, just assumes like, oh, this is the best role that you could possibly get right now. So I want you to do A, B, C, D, and E for me so that we know that you're worthy of this role. That is like the biggest disrespect, because in my brain I'm like, I've been doing this for 10 plus years.
Hmm.
Actually, technically I've been doing this for 15 plus years and you're treating me like I started yesterday. Yeah, that's the biggest misconception. I'm like, we're not all starving artists who need this or else we're going to die. We're not. We're like people who've been doing this at varied levels,
Hmm.
but like, whew, yeah, that could be a tangent.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as an actor, how if you aren't given the work that you need, like for instance, you wanted a part so badly you didn't get it. How do you handle criticism and how do you handle rejection?
I'll do rejection first. When I find a role and I read for a role that I really, really want and I then don't get it, first of all, the fun thing about self tapes in this day and age is that you send in a self tape on Monday. If you've booked the role, usually they'll tell you by like Friday,
Hmm.
usually. And if you don't hear back from them at all, you haven't booked it. So by that time, if Monday rolls around and I've done that self tape, Tuesday I've got 5 self tapes, Wednesday I've got 10, Thursday I've got 2. I've forgotten all about that one.
Oh
It's
wow.
gone. Like I'm busy. Like I got stuff to think about other than that role. And even though I really wanted that role, it doesn't really make a huge difference because I've got so many other things that I'm focused on. I'm also a big hobby person, as you know. So lots of things to keep me busy. And another thing is that occasionally, and I'm not a fan of this, so we'll see what other actors think about this. But sometimes casting will reach out to you and say, like sometimes this has been really pleasant, but other times it's like, hi, Jessica, really enjoyed your read, but you're not right for this role. So have a great day. And I'd rather not be told if I don't get it because I've forgotten about it. I'd rather not be told unless, and this has happened to me, which was so sweet of them. I loved them, these casting directors. I won't name them because I don't know how they feel about that. But what was the sweetest thing was that I had sent in a self tape, and I can't remember if I got a callback or not, but I sent in a tape, and I felt really good about it. I was like, I bet I booked that, and I got an email from the casting directors, and they were like, "Hey, Jessica, we really loved your read. Unfortunately, you're not really right for this role." And they wanted to give you a different role that was smaller, but
I'd
we
rather
think
hear
that you're.
that. I'd rather hear that
But
message.
then they're like, they wanted to give you this role that was smaller, but we think that you're better than that, and we want to save you for a lead role because we think you are an incredible actress. And I'm like, that is the best email you could have sent me. Like,
Yeah.
so there's a fine line. There's a fine line. There's rejection emails, and then there's really nice emails from casting directors you really want to work with. There's such a line. There's a difference. So, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. we tried reaching out to some musicians, celebrities, and the publicists are like, "Oh, who have you had on your podcast that's just our caliber?" And I'm like, "Excuse me." I mean, like,
Yeah.
you think you're better than me or something? Just, I'd rather hear them say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but she's not available," or "He's not available," or "I'm sorry, but they're not right for your podcast," instead of saying, "Who are you right?" Like, what if you got that? Someone say, "Jessica, I don't think you're right for this role because you don't probably have any experience," like an actual Darman episode.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Isn't there any time that you just wanted to give up? Like, what keeps you going?
That's a really, really good question. Different things keep me
Hmm.
going for sure because I don't know if I've had very specific feelings of I want to give up. I've been discouraged for sure. Uh, I think last week I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. Like it just very much was like there was discouragement happening. And the thing is, it's like the thing keeping me in it is that I know that it's going somewhere. I can see the finish line, if you will. And I feel like a lot of people can't see the finish line. And I've been told before by a very wise person, who's my favorite person. He said that you have to be very clear with your skills, clear on your skill level, clear on your talent, clear on your work and your training. Because if you're not clear on that, you're going to go into these opportunities thinking that you're not worthy for them, and then you're going to quit because you don't know that you have it. You don't know that you can do it. And I know that I have it, and I know that I can do it. Sometimes it's harder to see,
Hmm.
but, like in your soul, you have to believe that this is my path. This is what I'm doing. I can see myself winning awards A, B, and C. I can see myself in these shows and these movies working with these directors. But you really have to believe it.
Do you think acting has shaped you as a person?
Definitely. I think I've always been a very empathetic person, but acting makes you just even that much more empathetic because you're stepping into other people all the time. You're thinking like other people think all the time. And it's easier nowadays for if I'm just I'm a person on the street and somebody's having a bad day and they take it out on me, I can then be like, I wonder why they would take it out on me. I wonder what happened. Oh, I bet something like this happened. And then it doesn't make it so hurtful. It doesn't make it so stinging when someone is
Hmm.
rude to you or upset or hurt because you kind of get where it's coming from. There's a lot of psychology to me involved with acting.
That's true. So, what do you think is the most rewarding part of being an actress?
Mm. I'd say the most rewarding part is that when you step into a character and all of a sudden that's it.
Hmm.
You to me, and some people hate this answer, but to me, like it feels like I'm channeling the character.
Hmm.
Like I've Jessica is gone and it's just the character. And then when they yell cut, I come back and I'm like, what just happened? What did I do? What did my body do? Like
That's a
that's
sign
like
of a
the
good
most
actor. Yeah.
rewarding feeling
Hmm.
is that sort of out of body experience.
That's amazing. So, what do you think? Share an instance where you had to make a difficult decision in your career.
The first one that comes to mind is when I was in Hong Kong at Disneyland performing. When I got back home, I decided to stop doing musical theater and just do
Hmm.
TV and film. And I don't know if it was a hard decision, but I was so fed up. I was
Wow.
like, musical theater is fun. Of course, it's fun, but for me, it was like you do the same show maybe twice a day, every single day, and you go to that every single day, and you're not doing anything new. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I just was so tired of that. I have realized over the years I'm not much of a routine person. I really try. I really try to have a routine, and it just doesn't go the way that I want it to because I get bored so fast with routine that TV and film just sounded so much better. And as soon as I started really working in TV and film, oh my gosh, it was night and day. It was night and day because you're doing something different every single day when you're on a film set. You're meeting new people from week to week. You're playing different roles. It's like so different and so satisfying.
What would you be your perspective on diversity and representation in film industry? Such as I asked Vanessa the question about playing a blind girl or someone with disability. She says that if the part is of someone who's blind or deaf or disabled, give it to someone who actually is disabled or blind. But if she plays a character where she becomes blind or she becomes deaf, then she'll play it. So, what's your perspective on that?
I think diversity and representation is like incredibly important because the way that I had a realization like a year ago. I was like, I always, when I was a kid, loved Cinderella. Ask me why I loved Cinderella. It was because I was a blonde girl with blue eyes and I looked like Cinderella. That was the only reason I liked Cinderella. And so I had this realization. I was like, not everybody has that. At the time when Cinderella was out, it was like, what? It was Ariel, white girl, Snow White, white girl, Cinderella, white girl. Like, there's no diversity, absolutely no diversity. And so I feel for that. I feel for people who like did not have those growing up. And it seems like it's like, okay, we're talking about Disney princesses, whoop-de-doo, but like it really does matter because those are formative years for children. And I think it's so incredibly important that we can see a version of ourselves, something that we can aspire to be on television and in film, because it's so prevalent in our society to watch a show when you get home from school, to watch a movie with your family. And
Hmm.
I mean, just listening about all the Barbie stuff surrounding like, oh, little girls can be a doctor and a singer and a veterinarian, but only if you look like Barbie. And Barbie in the beginning was just a white girl with blonde hair. So it's so important that like every person has representation. Every person can look at that and say, oh, I can be a doctor. Oh, I can be this. Oh, I can be that. Because even if it's subconscious, even if the programming is subconscious, like, well, I can't be that because I don't look like that. That's whack. That's whack. And I can't, it's representation is very important.
Yeah, and when they had that Disney film Moana, it was also not a white girl. And I think they want to redo Sleeping Beauty with a black girl. There's nothing wrong with that, even though people complaining, well, don't do a Star Wars where Princess Leia is like a Chinese woman or something. I mean, like,
Which I think is crazy because it's like these are fictional stories. Like these are fictional stories made for children, like or just for fun. Like there's absolutely no reason why Ariel. We were dealing with this literally like last year. I think she did such an incredible job at that role. She was the perfect casting for that role. There's no reason why she couldn't have done it.
yeah, I think you're right. So, what kind of positive impact do you want to make for people who watch your work? What do you want them to take away with it?
I want people to see something real enough to empathize with it, because that's something that is really important for me when I watch films and when I watch TV shows. The characters that have the biggest impact on me are the ones where the actors are the most real. That's really, really important, and it sucks you in, and all of a sudden, I'm not paying attention to the actor, I'm paying attention to the character, and what the character's feeling, and what's happening in the story. I'm involved, I'm invested, and I want that for my career.
When you hit the age of 30, do you want to see an episode of Darman, which is like especially like 10 years old? Do you still like watching yourself perform in a movie, or do you have like this irk factor where you're like, no, no, I don't look good?
Well, I can tell you that in general now, like I know a lot of actors don't like to watch themselves act, but I actually love to watch myself act, especially when I know I've done the work. There are instances where I've watched myself back and I'm like, oh, you're not that character at all, but all right. But I watch my work pretty often because I'm always having to edit these reels together, not like Instagram reels, but acting reels together for websites and YouTube and managers, agents, etc. And so I'm constantly having to review my work to make the best acting reel that I can. And sometimes, I'd say a good 80% of the time, I'm very comfortable watching myself back. 20% of the time, I'm like, I might have used better, I don't know, options for that. But for the most part, I think I will not have a problem watching anything over 10 years old of me in it. I don't think I'll have a problem with it. If anything, I'll be like, oh, look at how nice my skin looks, you know? It's probably, yeah.
Well, when you do a scene in a movie, or especially those days when you were in Darman, do they show you the scene so you know how it looks, and you go, oh no, no, I don't like it done that way. Can we redo it? I want to do it this way, or are they like, well, this is how it looks, and you're like, can I change it? Nope, we got to move on.
They don't show you. And that's pretty standard across the board. If you really ask, like, oh, can I see monitor? Which means like you can see the playback back. Sometimes they'll say yes, but for the most part, we move so fast. That's in like every production. They move so fast, and time is money because they're renting whatever place they're using. Usually, in Darman's case, they had their own stage, but for a lot of these productions, you go so fast, you don't want to waste the time with looking back at what you're doing. And even if you did, as the actor, you don't really have the power to be like, I don't really like that. Let me do that again. Occasionally, if it's like absolutely awful, you can be like, I just know I have a better one in me. Like, can I do that one more time? Then they'll be like, yes or no. But usually you feel it when it happens, and you don't have to watch the monitor to know that you need to do it again. Yeah, we don't really have that power as actors to change a whole lot. Like, we just do our job, and that's it.
Yeah, I was watching a film on behind the scenes and saying that, and there was one director who spent so long on one scene, and people say, well, you don't have to be too long on a scene. He goes, don't tell me what to do. This is my movie. We'll spend as long as we want on this scene. And it was like, okay, you're director, do what you want. And he spent like hours and hours on the scene. But I was watching another movie, and all it was an 8-second scene where the character, the lady, was walking up the stairs, meeting a guy that was like this, and they would give each other like a folder or whatever. And I was watching behind the scenes, and they said that scene took 3 weeks. Just him walking up the stairs and meeting. It took them 3 weeks of that one scene, which only lasts 8 seconds. What would be the longest scene that ever worked on you before you were like, thank God, I hate this?
Well, I'll tell you. I was in a movie. It's probably gonna come out soon, so I'm not gonna name it. I'm not gonna name anybody, but it was a very active thing. So I was running a lot. I was crying a lot. Very intense stuff, and there was this. My memories are a bit foggy because I try to block out that experience in general, but I was there was two instances where I specifically was like, stop, please let me go. But the guy had us do like 16, 17, maybe 20 takes of me
Oh,
running up and down stairs crying for my life. And I'm like, how many takes do you need of this? Because it's very physical. It's like, that I'll tell you now, when you ask me about crying, if you don't have it in you, you take a tear stick, which is like menthol, you rub it in your eyes, and it'll make you cry.
wow.
And I had to keep doing that over and
Oh,
over and over. And it's painful, and you're like out of water. There's no more water left. Over and over and over. And I'm like, oh my, it was crazy. It was crazy. That was the production. That was the production from hell, if I'm being honest. So that's why I'm not naming anybody. I'm not naming what it was. Like, that was really whack. And that was not the first time that happened on that set. It was just a lot of running, crying, screaming, scared, take after take after take after take. And I think we all blew up on each other during that set. Every single one of us lost our temper with everyone. Yeah.
wow. I know this actor, and all he does is he promotes himself to be in movies just playing a dead body. So he has several pictures of him being run over, stabbed, he'll have the blood. So any way that you can get killed or stabbed or die, he's telling you, I want to be the guy that is found dead. That
That
would be
is so
that would be the
cool.
most easiest part of your acting job is just I want to play dead guy. You don't have to open up your mouth. You have to be part of ACTRA or SAG or you just
That is
here.
literally so cool. I have so much respect for that person.
Yeah. So imagine being hired. Okay, you can play the dead guy. What happens is that oh yeah, I take it. That's all he has to do.
That's great.
Oh wow. Um, so what is a lesson you've learned in your career, or I'm gonna say in your acting career, that you once knew when you started?
Nothing has to be perfect. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. It used to be debilitating because everything had to be absolutely perfect. I was an A+ student all throughout high school. I was one of the valedictorians.
Oh nice.
It was some of the most stressful times of my life were in high school because, while I was having fun in musical theater, I was also so hard on myself in the way that I just put all these guardrails up. Like, if you're not perfect, if you're not on it, if you're not getting straight A's, if you're not this way, if you're not that, it was crazy. And nowadays, the only thing that I think is like the biggest takeaway is nothing has to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. What you look like doesn't have to be perfect. Your performance doesn't even have to be perfect. You just have to show up and keep showing up. Because that's the thing, is that so many actors, and I understand, they'll give up. And it's sad, of course, but this isn't for everybody. But I think a huge part of that is they don't think they're perfect, and they want to be perfect. They want the perfect career. They want the perfect work-life balance. They want the perfect everything, and you can't really have it. So it's just being happy with where you are and just keeping going.
Yeah, don't not do musical theater anymore because you end up like as a Jessica Ruth Bell was given the part of a lifetime, but she regrets it because you could be given the biggest part ever that's ever played in a musical. So people find out you're not in musicals anymore. We'll give it to someone else who ends up being the one that gets the Oscar. So you should know
Well,
that. You
see,
watch
that's
a
the
lot of
difference,
Darman.
though. That's the difference, though, is that there's musical movies and there's musical theater. If it's a really good show, I'll do musical theater, but
Hmm.
I'm very much more interested in a musical movie. And I've told my reps that, and everybody knows that. It's like my singing is very much on display, like I've got it in my Instagram, I've got it on my YouTube.
Hmm.
Like, people know that, like, I'm a singer, but ask me to go on stage for 6 months doing the same thing every single day. I don't know if I can handle that. Like, I can handle it because I've done it, but I don't necessarily want to.
Well, I'm going to make sure that your YouTube channel, all your social media, and everything is linked down below, plus all your shows, whatever, just so people can get an idea of who Jessica Ruth Bell is. You never know.
Oh, thank you. I'd love that.
So, one final question: where do you like to see yourself 10 years from now?
I love that question. Um, 10 years from now, I'd like to see myself as having finished a few really good movies, like big time, great directors. I'd like to have seen myself win 2 Oscars,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to see myself happily married with 3 kids, 2 kids, one on the way, and sitting on a porch, drinking coffee, watching them
Crocheting,
swim in the pool,
singing opera.
singing opera to my
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, why not? But Jessica, really appreciate this opportunity to have you on our platform. We're going to end
Thank
this
you
stream.
so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. So wait right there because I got to do something first. Okay, everyone, Jessica Ruth Bell and I are out.